Hey YouTube, time for some things we should all know. And many of us were raised to believe that strong self-esteem was the foundation of a happy, successful life. During the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, cultural icons like Bill Clinton, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, and Maya Angelou all taught this doctrine, which really came to permeate society almost entirely. It's clear now this idea was as destructive as it is incorrect, and the consequences continue to be disastrous. But our journey down the wrong road does offer some valuable lessons about what really makes us happy. In his book, Selfie, How We Became So Self-Obsessed and What It's Doing to Us, journalist and storyteller Will Storr offers a thoughtful, engaging exploration of our journey into mass narcissism. Storr goes all the way back to ancient Greece and beyond, but I'll start a little closer to our own day. The Esalen Institute was founded in Big Sur, California in 1962, and it became a driving force behind the movement for human potential and self-actualization. Drugs and hippie culture were melded together with an eclectic mishmash of Eastern religion, yoga, psychotherapy, pop culture, and New Age philosophy. Esalen became a magnet for culture makers like Jane Fonda, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, and Dennis Hopper. The environment at Esalen was predictably chaotic, as participants experimented with primal screaming, gestalt therapy, and psychedelics, among many other things. Many participants experienced emotional and psychological breakdowns. In the 1970s, a young California assemblyman named John Vasconcellos found the Esalen Institute as a place where he could work out childhood frustration with his Catholic upbringing. At Esalen, he transformed into a brash, colorful, larger-than-life figure, driving a convertible and attending no-rules hot tub parties. His training at Esalen instilled a belief that self-esteem was something of a magic cure-all for social ills like crime and poverty. Vasconcellos eventually founded the California Task Force to promote self-esteem and personal and social responsibility. The task force was dedicated to the proposition that if people, especially children, could be taught to love and value themselves, they would somehow be inoculated against social ills. In 1990, the task force released a study, the result of more than 4 years of research into self-esteem, done primarily at the University of California in Berkeley. Although this research showed the relationship between self-esteem and various social goods was correlative and not causal, the fuse was lit. The press, which had previously lampooned Vasconcellos and the task force, turned 180 degrees in support of the self-esteem movement. Self-esteem as the root of human flourishing moved into the cultural mainstream, beyond the reach of truth or reason. The work of the task force did have serious contemporary critics, however, including distinguished social psychologist Roy Baumeister, who pointed out that the relationship between self-esteem and positive life outcomes was not causal. Baumeister showed, in fact, that an inflated sense of self based on external factors doesn't prevent risky or counter-social behaviors. In fact, it may drive them. It makes the victims of a bad idea fragile and unhappy. In the decades since the task force released their report, research has validated what common sense always knew. If something is not true, it won't stand the test of reality. Overconfidence that is not grounded in real effort, ability, or achievement leads to disappointment, anger, shame, aggression, denial, blame shifting, and emotional volatility. Storr observes that going back to the Greeks and beyond, Western culture has nurtured the concept of an ideal person. The self-esteem movement played into our deep cultural need for individuals to realize ideals of prosperity, social standing, and physical beauty. The internet and smartphones allow us now to perpetuate fantasies about our ideal selves. We formulate a curated, performative image of ourselves to the world on social media in the hope that they will reinforce internal narratives about ourselves. Through this continuous loop of false positive feedback, selfie culture magnifies disappointment, competitive jealousy, and isolation. Storr concludes that happiness and contentment are more likely to be had through self-acceptance and flexible, realistic expectations about success and failure. He encourages the value of cultivating meaningful relationships and experiences aligned with our authentic natures. I certainly can't argue with the importance of realism or the value of authentic relationships and meaning. However, Storr's ideas about contentment and self-acceptance are deeply rooted in secular humanist perspective. He dismisses free will, so acceptance seems more like simple capitulation to our natural inclinations. He recognizes the power of identity, but assumptively negates the concept of inherent human value and dignity as beings created by God. He ignores research suggesting that religious participation is highly conducive to human happiness and flourishing. He would suggest that faith is simply a comforting story we tell ourselves. Storr seems genuinely empathetic, but it is hard to distinguish between the secular humanist perspective and simple nihilism. For me, Selfie reinforced two immutable truths. First, we are moral agents, endowed by our Creator with the power to choose. Pursuing endlessly shifting cultural ideals will inevitably lead to disappointment. Self-images will fade, but our character will endure forever. There can never be human flourishing without striving for an ideal. Exercising our will in the pursuit of beauty, knowledge, and progress for ourselves and those around us always leads to happiness because it brings us into harmony with the divine nature. Second, as Storr effectively documents, our sense of identity is essential and determinative. He misses the obvious need for something real to ground our sense of self-worth. There is no basis for a sense of self outside of our true connection to the divine. Understanding man's origin and destiny as God's creation is the ultimate source of self-acceptance, resilience, and happiness. And those are some things we should all know.